Hey guys, Mr. Yisley here. So we're moving on to the next section of the notes, which is all about solving multi-step equations. So this is more steps than a two-step equation. Now within this, our whole goal is to get it down to a two-step equation if we can, because those are a little bit simpler as we saw in our notes and in your worksheet. We can really create an easy little to-do-undo list if we need, and we can go through it in reverse order and solve it as needed. But sometimes we get some of these more complicated things like parentheses or multiple variables on one side, or sometimes multiple variables on, or excuse me, not multiple variables, but the same variable on multiple of that variable on one side, and then the same variable on both sides of it. Either way, we kind of have a checklist before. So on your paper there for your notes, it talks about things to do before solving, because the solving is all about the two-step. Once we've got it down to two-step, we'll solve like we always did. But I always like to check for parentheses first. Are there any parentheses in there? And if there are, we're going to use distribution. And again, distribution is a form of multiplication. So this is multiply. And we use that to clear the fraction, or clear the parentheses on each side of the equation. So whatever's on the directly next to the parentheses, we're going to distribute that to everything inside by multiplying everything that's inside to clear the parentheses. Again, you should have learned about that in your pre-algebra or algebra prep class. The second thing I like to check for after I've gotten rid of parentheses are, do we have like terms on one side of the equal sign? So I'm looking at one side, then I'm looking at the other. I'm not looking at both sides at the same time. So these like terms. Now, like terms are, again, either variables that have the exact same exponent, so it's either x to the first power or x squared, things like that. We're not going to be really dealing with x squared in this chapter because they're linear equations, and linear equations only are to the first power. So really you're looking for, do I have multiple x's on both sides, or do I have multiple numbers on each side, so like plus 3 minus 4, or things like that I can combine together and simplify down. Then the third step is we're looking to see, do we have the variables on both sides of the equal sign? So do we have variables on both sides? And once we've seen if we do, we're going to move them all to one side of the equation through addition and subtraction so that we can get it combined. Now, I'm not worried if we have numbers on both sides, or constants as they're called, on both sides at this point. We're really just worried about, do we have variables on both sides? Because once we get it variables all on one side, then we can go into our two-step process. All right, so this video is going to be just a little bit longer. We've got about 6 examples to go through. The first examples are going to deal primarily with parentheses. The next few examples are going to deal with like terms. So let's jump in then and let's do some multi-step examples. So starting with example A, we have 2 parentheses x minus 3. Again, that means 2 times x minus 3 equals 4. Well, I see a parenthesis already, so that means I need to distribute that 2 on the outside to everything on the inside. I like the rainbow method, so I'm just simply going to go 2 times x, which is 2x, and 2 times negative 3. I have to include that symbol right there. So 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. All right, now there's no parentheses on the right side of the equal sign, so I'm just going to bring down what's on the right side exactly as it is. So through distribution, I have now cleared my parentheses. So now I am able to look at this and say, all right, do I have like terms on the same side? Well, the x and the negative 6 are not like. Do I have variables on both sides? I only have x on the left side. So I'm really done with those solving steps. I've done everything I need to do to simplify it, which means we're now back into solving a linear equation, our to-do, undo, and those steps. So we should be down to 2 steps left at this point, once we've gone through those 3 pre-solving steps. So at this point, I'm going to create my to-do, undo. So I've got to figure out where's my variable, what are they doing to it. So to-do and undo. I see that they are closest thing to my x is a multiplying by 2, so they multiplied by 2. And then my next closest thing they did was subtract 6. So subtract 6. Well, that means now I need to reverse the order. So switch, create my little diagonal lines. So the opposite of subtracting 6 is adding 6. And the opposite of multiplying by 2 is dividing by 2. So again, these are my steps right here. And in this order from top to bottom is the order that I'm going to solve them in. So now I'm going to come over to my equation. I'm going to split it in half so I can see it really easily. And then I'm going to do my steps. So first step, add 6. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides, again lining up the numbers. Well, negative 6 and positive 6 cancel out, so bring over my 2x, or bring down my 2x, because that's all that's left on the left side. And then 4 plus 6, that is 10. All right, well, step 1 is done. So now I need to do step 2, which says divide by 2. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2, because whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So 2 divided by 2, that cancels itself. That means all I'm left with is the x. 10 divided by 2, that is 5. So x equals 5. And then again, if I'm not sure, I can always plug it in. So 5 in for x. So 5 minus 3 in the parentheses, which is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. And that is correct. So that was the correct answer. All right, well, example B, I would encourage you to try this one here on your own. So see if you can figure out what's going on there, what you need to clear, can you get it down to the to do undo. So pause the video, try it on your own. I'm going to go ahead and go forth. So I see, first thing I see, parentheses. I do have parentheses, I'm checking for them. So I need to clear those through distribution. So 4 times x is 4x. And then 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. Now I did not do anything to the left side, so I'm going to bring all of that straight down. All right, so now do I have any like terms on the same side? 4x and negative 4 not like terms, nothing on the left side, so good there. Third, check for variables on both sides of the equal sign. I don't have variables on both sides of the equal sign, so no other pre-solving steps to do. So that means I'm now into my to-do undo. So first thing first, where's my x? Here it is. What's being done to it? Well, if I look at this and create my to-do to undo, I see that closest to the x is a 4, so they are multiplying by 4. Next closest is a subtract 4, so they subtracted 4, so crisscross, reverse the order. The opposite of subtracting by 4 is adding 4. The opposite of multiplying by 4 is dividing by 4. So there are my steps. I'm going to split my equation, and I'm going to do them. So first step, add 4. So I'm going to add 4 on both sides. Add 4 on both sides. Again, make sure you line just the numbers up. We don't want to put this add 4 underneath the 4x. That's going to get really confusing. Line up what goes together. So these right here cancel. That leaves me with 4x on the right side. 20 plus 4 is 24 on the left side. Step 1's done. So now I'm to step 2, which is divide by 4. So I'm going to divide by 4 on each side. And again, I like to use the fraction sign. It's just much simpler and easier to see, and especially when you're canceling out. So 4 divided by 4, that cancels out. I'm left with x on the right side. 24 divided by 4, that is 6. So x equals 6. And again, I could check that out and see if it comes true. Plug the 6 in for x, so 6 minus 1 equals 5. 5 times 4 is 20, and that's what it says it equals, so that is correct. All right, so example C, let's move on to that one. That one looks a little bit different. So if I'm going through my pre-solving steps, I still want to first check for, do I have parentheses? Well, I do not see any parentheses on these. So that means I don't need to do anything on that side. There's no distribution to take place in this equation. Then I'm looking, hey, do I have any like terms on one side of the equal sign? So we're only looking at one side when it comes to like terms. Well, I see that I have both a 9x and a negative 6x, or 9x minus 6x. So at this point, I want to go ahead and combine those on this right side. So 9x minus 6x, that's 3x. Bring down what I didn't use, which is the positive 15. So 3x plus 15 equals, bring down what I didn't use on the left side, which is negative 12. So I combined like terms right there through addition and subtraction, because 9x minus 6x is 3x. Then I'm going to check, do I have variables on both sides of the equation? Well, variable on the right side, no variable on the left side, so I'm done with pre-solving steps. So that again means that I'm now into my two-step equation, which means I can do my to-do, undo list and solve my problem from here. And I'm going to shift this over so you can see. I'm going to create this to-do, undo out here to the right. All right, so first things first, where's my x? Here it is. What's closest? Well, I see a 3 with no signs in between it, so that means that they multiplied by 3, to do to undo. So multiply by 3, then they added 15. That was what was happening to x, so I've got to undo that, so switch, crisscross. Opposite of adding 15 is subtracting 15. Opposite of multiplying by 3 is dividing by 3. So there we go. There's my steps. First thing I need to do, subtract 15. Second thing I need to do, divide by 3. All right, well, I'm going to split my equation in half. Here we go. I've got first step of subtract 15. So again, lining those up, subtract 15, subtract 15. That cancels that out. So on the right side, all I have left is 3x. On the left side, negative 12 minus 15. So those are both negative numbers, so they're going to combine together to make negative 27. So negative 27 equals 3x. Step 1 is done. Step 2 was divide by 3. So next I'm going to divide by 3, divide by 3. When I do that, those cancel as they have in every other problem. So x on the right side is all that's left. 27 divided by 3 is 9, and then a negative divided by a positive is a negative. So I got x equals negative 9, or negative 9 equals x. So again, if I wanted to check that, I could plug that back in. I could plug it into the original equation. I could plug it into my simplified equation. I'm going to plug it into the simplified. So if I put negative 9 in for x here, I'd get negative 9 times 3, which is negative 27. If I added 15 to negative 27, I would get negative 12. So that is correct. All right, well, if you flip your notes over onto example D here, I would encourage you to try that one on your own and then unpause the video after you've tried it on your own and check your answer against mine. I'm going to go ahead and move forward. So again, first thing I want to check for pre-solving steps on these multi-step equations are, do I have parentheses? No parentheses involved in negative 2x minus 10x plus 12 equals 18. Don't have to do that. So step 2 is, do I have like terms on one side of the equal sign? Well, on the right side, all I have is an 18, so I can't have like terms if there's only one term. But on the left side, I see that I have x's here. I've got a negative 2x and a negative 10x. Well, those are going to combine together. Well, negatives and negatives go together, so that becomes negative 12x, bring down what I didn't use, plus 12 equals 18. So the last thing I want to check for, do I have variables on both sides? I do not see any variables on both sides, only on one side, so I'm done with pre-solving steps, and I can go on to my to-do, undo. So first things first, where's my x? Here it is. What's the closest thing? Well, they are multiplying by negative 12. So if I do my to-do to undo, and make sure you guys can see that just fine. Yep, okay, good. First thing they did, multiply by negative 12. And remember, those negatives got to stay with it. Really important. Second thing they did was add 12. So now I'm going to reverse that order, and I'm going to solve. So addition, or adding 12, opposite of that is subtraction, so subtract 12. Multiply by negative 12, the opposite of that is divide by negative 12. So right there are my steps. So if I divide my equation in half, draw my line, I would end up with, first step, subtract 12. So subtract 12, subtract 12. Well, again, as always, these cancel, so bring down what's left, which is negative 12x on the left side. 18 minus 12, that is 6. That is on the right side. So next step is divide by negative 12. So I'm going to divide by negative 12, divide by negative 12. All right, well, negative 12 divided by negative 12, that cancels, so I'm left with x equals 6 divided by negative 12. Well, my number on the bottom is bigger than the number on the top, which means that it does not go evenly into it to create a whole number, because the bottom number was dividing into a smaller number. Well, anytime that happens, guys, that means that we're going to end up with a fraction for an answer, not a decimal, a fraction, all right? So what we're going to do is we're going to simply look at these numbers and say, hey, is there a number in common between those two numbers that I can divide by to make that fraction as simple as possible? So reduce the fraction. Well, 6 and 12, they have the number 6 in common. So I'm going to divide by 6 and divide by 6. So 6 divided by 6, that's 1 over negative 12 divided by 6. Well, negative 12 divided by 6 is negative 2. So I end up with x equals negative 1/2. Now, if you were to end up with x equals negative 6 over 12 or 6 over negative 12, whichever you have, you would get it almost completely correct. On the assignment, I would take a 0.5 point off because you didn't reduce the fraction. So make sure you reduce the fraction. But if your steps are correct, you'll get almost full credit. We just got to make sure that our final answer is always as simple as possible. All right, well, example E, we need to take a look at that one. So it's a little bit different. So we still go through our steps, pre-solving steps. So first, are there parentheses? No parentheses. Step 2, are there like terms on one side of the equal sign? Well, on the left, 10 and negative 4x are not like. And on the right, only one term, so it can't have like terms. So third step, are there variables on both sides? Well, I see right here that I have a negative 4x on the left side and a negative 9x on the right side. So my goal then is to get it all to one side. Well, just a little clue for you. Whenever you have a number and a variable on one side and then just a variable on the other like that, we want to move this negative 4x over here because that's going to save us some solving steps rather than moving the negative 9x over here. Well, the way we move it is very similar to how we move the numbers. If we had an adding 3, we would subtract 3. Well, because we had a negative 4x, we're going to add 4x to both sides, because whatever I do to one. So that'll simply cause these to cancel, and then I need to combine those. So negative 9x plus 4x, well, negative and positive, well, there's more negatives, so I'm going to end up with negative. How many more are there? There are 5, and these are x's. So negative 5x on the right side, bring down what I didn't use, which is 10. So 10 equals negative 5x. Now, the reason I said it's best to move the variable across to the side with just the variable is now you should be into a one-step equation. So you're only going to have one step to solve this, which is awesome. That's going to create less havoc for us. So again, I don't have any other pre-solving steps. So now, where's the x? What's being done to it? Well, it's right here, and it's being multiplied by negative 5. Well, my to-do to undo, they were multiplying by negative 5, so to undo that, I divide by negative 5. That's all I really have to do. So I'm going to divide both sides. If I split this in half by negative 5, divide by negative 5. So these, as always, cancel. Negative 5 divided by negative 5 is 1, so I'm just left with x on the right side. And then 10 divided by negative 5 is negative 2. 10 divided by 5 is 2. Positive divided by a negative is a negative. So x equals negative 2. And again, you can mentally plug that back into your equation, make sure that it works, which it does in this instance. So when it comes to variables on both sides, we want to move those variables to the side with only variables, right? That's going to create less havoc. We could move it the other way, but then we got 2 steps to solve rather than 1. If we can move it all to the side with just the variables, that's going to simplify the process. All right, so I'd encourage you to pause it, try example F on your own, and then unpause it and check your answer with mine. All right, so first step on example F, check for parentheses, no parentheses. Second step, check for like terms on one side of the equal sign. 3x and 10 not like terms, only one term on the left side, so that don't have that going on. Third step is check for variables on both sides. I do see that going on because I've got the negative 2x right here and I've got the 3x right here. Well, again, I know that I want to move this 3x to that side because that's going to save me some time. Well, it was a positive 3x, so rather than adding 3x, I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. Subtract 3x, subtract 3x. Well, that's going to cause these to cancel, so all I'm left with on the right side is 10, and that's equal to negative 2x minus 3x. Those are going to combine to make negative 5x. Well, again, I'm in my to-do undo here. And the only thing being done to my x is it's being multiplied by negative 5. Kind of lucky, that's exactly what happened on the last problem. So I need to divide by negative 5. Well, if you just look at your last problem, it's going to be pretty simple. You're going to know exactly what to do on this step, and you're going to end up with x equals negative 2. Because divide by negative 5, they cancel out, so all I'm left with is x on the left side. 10 divided by negative 5, 10 divided by 5 is 2, and a positive divided by a negative is a negative. So x equals negative 2. All right, well, again, when you're working these out, you need to show all of these basic steps. You do not have to have the to-do undo. When you combine variables, you need to show that. You need to show what's being done so that we can see your steps. That's the bare minimum to receive full credit.